dive, starting with Hendrik Raedeni. Hendrik is the divisional head of the alternative and renewable energy section of the city of Ekurhuleni. Hendrik is responsible for implementation of renewable energy projects, energy efficiency, demand-side management, embedded generation integration, procurement of renewable energy from IPPs and wheeling. He's worked in the private sector, state-owned enterprises and municipal sector. He's experienced in electrical design, automation, metering, tariffs, electrification, maintenance, electrical protection, and revenue enhancement and protection. Hendrik is currently pursuing an MSc in sustainable energy provision and demand-side management. So Hendrik will be talking about municipal procurement of generation. Hendrik, if you could fire up your presentation, and over to you, please.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you, the organizers. I'm just going to try to share my screen now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mark, and also thank you for the for the organizers to invite me for this webinar to share real-life experiences, and then also to share Ekurhuleni experiences in the integration or effective integration of distributed energy resources. So I'm just going to share exactly what Ekurhuleni has been doing or is currently doing on this subject matter. Maybe just before we can continue, I just want to put some of the options that are available for municipalities, not just Ekurhuleni, but any municipality that might also want to partake in this process. And that I've mentioned 4 options that are available for municipalities to also partake into. Number 1 being the procurement of renewable energy or alternative energy directly from IPPs. Wheeling is also another option that municipalities can look at, and also city's own build program. And then the last one being purchasing of excess electricity from embedded generators. As we know, also making reference to Mark Borchers' presentation, there's a lot of applications that we normally receive from for SG registration. So now that can also be another form where a municipality can actually adopt that option. Maybe just to ask the simple question, I mean, why are we really doing this? I mean, it's good that any municipalities needs to understand before you partake with any initiative, the reasons why they are doing a particular program or a project. But for us as Ekurhuleni, these are the problems that we aim to solve, you know, by adopting some of those options that I've mentioned earlier. Number 1 being that now, as a city, I mean, we all know that the city of Ekurhuleni is an industrial hub of the country. We've got a lot of commercial customers around here, but we don't have, as a UT or as a metro, we do not have a utility scale generation plant. So this is one of the drivers, this is one of the reasons why we're actually doing this. And then again, everybody knows about the problems of unreliable supply. So we believe that now by our program, we'll also try to deload Eskom, and by deloading Eskom, we reduce the need for load shedding. And then everybody also know the issue of rising prices with Eskom. But we believe that about this program, somewhat will try to buffer our customers against a rising electricity cost. Also the issue of job opportunities, because we believe that there's huge potential in renewable energy space in terms of employment and to stimulate our local economy. And then again, we also want to contribute towards lowering the carbon footprint of the area, and as well as meeting our climate change targets, of which we say about 30% of our supply should actually come from renewable sources by 2030. A simple background of City of Ekurhuleni, for those who don't really know City of Ekurhuleni, it's also one of the largest metros in the country, and also largest distributor of electricity in the country. It's traditionally made of 9 towns, which individually they've got separate distribution grid that is run independently of the other area. And then I've just listed there the demand per each town, but in total I'm looking at around 2,500 MVA demand, which is around 7% contribution to the South African overall demand. And most of our customers have indicated below is mostly commercial, industrial, of which 23% of that is manufacturing. And as I've indicated below before, we are saying at least by 2030, we need to have supply from renewable energy by 2030. So that is our goal, and then we plan to achieve it. One of the options I've indicated on the first slide, there's an option of actually directly purchasing from IPPs. So I'm just going to dive deeply onto how we have conducted the program and then the progress thus far. To start with, in 2017, we actually appointed 47 independent power producers through an RFP, request for proposal process. So we sent out a proposal to the market, and then we received proposals from the market. And then what we did from the start was to actually set a price, which was Eskom Mega Flex, plus discount for the next for 17 years, meaning that now we were prepared to actually integrate any IPP who will develop this plant and sell electricity at Eskom prices or less. So that was one of the requirements. And then we've only accepted IPPs that are embedded, meaning that now these IPPs will build these power plants within Ekurhuleni, within our distribution network, connect directly on our distribution network, and then there was no willing for this one, but you can understand this was way back in 2017, and capacity was from 5 megawatt and above. So anyone who brought a proposal for less than 5 megawatt were not really entertained. And then, but the start of the process was an MFMA Section 33, because now MFMA Section 33 deals with long-term contracts. As we all know, most municipal contracts are 3 years maximum. But now, if there's a municipality that want to undertake this specific program, you need a long-term contract, because these are huge investment, and then there's no way in 3 years' time you can have return on investment. So these are 15 to 20 years a contract. So now the section that deals with that is Section 33. So we've done that program, received a council resolution. So basically the highest decision-making body of the council must make that determination, must give that approval to say, as a department, we can continue and enter into this long-term contracts. So we have done that currently. We do have a council resolution. And then part of that also include engagement with National Treasury. National Treasury need to give views and recommendations to city's program, and then from there we simply need to follow exactly what the National Treasury has actually recommended. And then again, there's also Section 34 of ERA that we also applied for. It was during, I think, 2020, when there was a publication of new generation regulation to say organs of state needs to actually apply for Section 34 of Electricity Regulation Act ministerial determination. So when it went out, we applied for that, and it was during stage 2 where DMRE and NERSA needed to do a concurrent, and then there was a big announcement of the licensing threshold, where last year was actually increased to 100 megawatt for embedded generators. So at that time, there was no clear guidelines from from DMRE to say, should we continue with the Section 34 application, seeing that the end results of Section 34 is licensing. So if license is no longer a requirement, should we continue with this process? Unfortunately, we received different views from the same office, and then we decided just to leave things as it is. And then our own interpretation was, even municipalities, even organs of state are exempted. Any plan does not matter. Even if the IPP is doing business with an organ of state, they can also use Schedule 2 of the ERA, which exempt them if the generation plant is less than 100 megawatt. And again, there was a circular that was published recently from National Treasury, I think they call it Circular 118, where they actually confirm our interpretation to say any generation plant 100 megawatts and below, only thing that you need is a registration, no licensing. But it seems like still from NERSA and DMRE, they're still blurry, comments that we received from them. So I think we probably need something straight from DMRE, from NERSA, which just state clearly what is their standpoint, because I love the approach by National Treasury, because from National Treasury is very clear. If the plant is less than 100 megawatt, there's no need for licensing, but it's only registration. And as I've indicated, our PPA will be around 20 years. That's a power purchase agreement. So this is the contract that will enter with our appointed service providers. A simple progress this far. At the moment, with the PPA that we have signed with independent power producers, I'm not going to say it is one of the best. I will say it's a work in progress, because we have never done this before, but it's work in progress. So as we go along, it's trial and error. So whatever works, we go with it, and whatever doesn't, we drop it. But at the moment, we've got 90% of our IPPs out of 40. From that 47, 90% have actually signed the PPA. And then at the moment, we've got 10 IPPs who've actually indicated that they've received letters of intent from funders, be it commercial banks, that there's that intention that they will want to fund these projects, which is a plus, because that is one of the requirements on the PPA Schedule 6, where the IPPs needs to present such letters to indicate there is funding that they will receive. And then there's another from Zesfontein. We've actually, as a city, put aside a farm. Currently is used as I think they normally plant maize, but now we're going to actually turn that farm into a solar farm. And then at the moment, our real estate department are busy preparing land lease agreements, of which 10 of the IPPs will be will build their power plants there, each being 10 megawatt, but I'll indicate later on the next slide. And then at the moment, we estimate the first IPPs between December and January 2023 or December 2022, they should be starting with construction. And then the first generation units within 12 months. So that is our estimation, and then we hope that we'll get that right. And then, as I've indicated, these are the renewable energy technologies that we have considered. So out of solar, we have appointed 31 solar IPPs, and then they're gonna deliver a proposed capacity of around 298 megawatts. Waste to energy, these are IPPs that will utilize our waste from our 5 landfill sites, and burn or incinerate to produce 139 megawatt of power. And there's also landfill gas, which is methane, only 1 IPP there. There's gas, 7 of them. And then giving a total proposal of 195 megawatt, fine coal gasification and other technologies. So this, in total, we're looking at around 683 capacity from this program. And then a simple, just try to simplify a typical PPA implementation. This is how our PPA is structured. But if you see all the stages, stage 0 to 10, it's not necessarily linear, meaning that now this can actually overlap. So you don't really need to follow step by step, but just for interest, also for ease of reference, just indicate that the first step is application of applying for or conducting MFMA Section 33 process, and also the ERA. But in this case, as we've indicated, we are saying all plants less than 100 megawatt, there's no need for Section 34, but now Section 33 of the Municipal Finance Management Act, that becomes a requirement. And then all the stages, I'm not gonna read all those stages, but I will say at the moment, as a city, we are at around, APPs trying to get funding, and also APPs trying to finalize their funding, and also land lease agreements. So that's where we are currently. And then, as I've indicated, hopefully by end of this year, start of next year, some of the IPPs will start to generate. And then this is the Zesfontein farm that I've mentioned. From this area, this is the farm that has been specifically set aside for an Ekurhuleni IPP solar farm, meaning that now 10 of the appointed solar IPPs will build their plant here, and then each having a 10 megawatt allocation. So in total, it's 9. In total is around 90 megawatt solar farm. So from Zesfontein, we're going to dissipate around, dispatch around 70 megawatts, going to Benbeck substation, as I think is around 132 kilovolt. And there's another line that will go to Bridel, which is a 20 megawatt, 88 kilovolts to Bridel substation from this solar farm that we are going to build. And then these are some of the risks that we have identified, especially with these programs, that now these are long-term contracts, and inherently long-term contracts, obviously you're bound to have some issues there. And again, there's a deemed energy payment. This is a payment where an IPP can claim a payment from the city for electricity that was never delivered. So in this case, you'll find that now this IPP rely on our grid to function for them to generate. So you might find that there's something issues on our grid where the IPP is connected to, then the IPP cannot generate. So in that case, it is not the fault of the IPP, but it's the fault of the city. So in this case, the IPP can claim what is called deemed energy payment. And that can be as a risk to the municipality for actually paying for something that was never delivered. So that's some of the risks. And also regulations and uncertainties I've indicated, NERSA and DMRE, those conflicting views or having different interpretation of Schedule 2, that again also it's a bit of a risk. And then how we plan to mitigate such risks, I've indicated there. Obviously we need skills in-house to properly manage this program, and again setting up accurate hours for allowable grid and available period based on the support of the grid to avoid deemed energy payment. But in this case, obviously there's no municipality or there's no organization that would promise an entire power supply. So what we do on the PPA, we try to set up some sort of like hours of grid unavailability to say, look, you can only start charging the municipality deemed energy payment after you've exceeded so many hours. That includes load shedding. So all in all, it's around 52 hours. So after 52 hours, where you in total per year, then the IPP can start charging a deemed energy payment. But for example, if it's just only 3 hours that there was no power, maybe for the home, the IPP cannot claim a deemed payment for that. And again, to avoid this deemed energy payment, you need to connect these IPPs at the stable grids, basically. Also try to avoid load shedding, the local grid where those IPPs are. So I think there's just been a communication or interaction between the municipality and Eskom, where there are certain load shedding stages where we are able to be in control, but there are some that maybe we're not in control. In that case, we rely maybe on Eskom, maybe just to understand that there are IPPs connected on this line or on this substation. So let's try not to load share them, but obviously it will depend on how the grid is structured. And again, proper dispute resolution and continuous engagement with other relevant stakeholders. A few benefits here. What we hope is that there's around 3.9 billion that we hope to save from this by this program, meaning that now this is the money that we would have paid over to Eskom, but had we, by this program, after a 20-year period, we hope to save around 13.9 billion. And then again, affordable energy to our customers, as I've indicated before, want to buffer pricing, this price rise to our customers. And again, also reduce power losses, because most of these generators will connect directly closer to where the load centers are. Also job opportunities, I've indicated around 10,000 temporary jobs and 1,000 permanent jobs that will be created from this program. And then again, as I've indicated, to stimulate again economic growth in the area. And then the other support that we think we need to get from certain stakeholders, I've mentioned SALGA, but SALGA also needs to play a role, of which I know SALGA is actively, playing this role on behalf of municipalities, National Treasury, because that's another thing that most funders will normally ask: do we have any support, or do we have any backing or sovereign guarantees on National Treasury? Unfortunately, there's no such for this municipal program, because most commercial banks or funders, they are used to the REAP program. So they expect that even this program will have some sort of treasury backing in terms of payment guarantees or sovereign guarantees, but we don't have such. DMRE, again, they also need to be decisive, give something clear where at least we know where we stand in terms of Schedule 2 of the ERA. And then NERSA as well, same boat with the DMRE. We need to get some clear guidelines from them. What is their interpretation of Schedule 2 or of the ERA? Some of the lessons learned, then quickly I've just listed few. Obviously, I've indicated we've benchmarked our tariff from Eskom Megaflex, but unfortunately, Eskom is a bit volatile, all right? So, and it's always difficult to predict. So that's another thing that we've learned as we go along. Because one thing that we did, there's if you look at the structure itself, Eskom, there's an issue of demand payments, where in this case, we have tweaked it a little bit to say, look, we can only pay maximum demand to an IPP who's going to generate at a time where we need it the most. And in this case, it's our evening peak, because the solar, 31 of them, they'll generate a lot during the day, but at the time, the evening peak, where we really need them the most, they won't be there. But should they now introduce battery storage on that, then at least they can claim demand payment from that. So at least that's another way of encouraging maybe battery storage also to help us during evening peaks. And then again, we say just start small. but fundable projects. But what I've realized with banks, they normally look for utility scale, sort of like to harness the economies of scale. I mean, if for a bank, it's easier for them to fund 20, 30, 40 megawatt project as opposed to a 5 megawatt or a 10 megawatt. So that's some of the things that we are laying as go along. And again, the fundability of a PPA indicated that will attract investors. And then again, the good crediting rating of the municipality can also aid towards PPA fundability. And then a good Eskom payment history can also aid towards PPA fundability, because now if a municipality has been failing to pay Eskom for all these years, or maybe the history is not so good, funders look at that to say, if you're failing to pay Eskom now, the chances are you might also fail to pay us as well. So that becomes a problem. So I think a good payment history can also assist towards PPA fundability, and again, proper risk allocation, because unfortunately, these are huge investments. And then these investors are looking for some sort of risk that they'll take, and as well as the municipality should be prepared to take some risks as well. And then in this case, the risk can also include the default, due to buyer's default, which is actually the municipality. So that risk has to be covered on the PPA to say what will happen to the contract if Ekurhuleni fails to pay. What are the steps that the IPP will take if that happens? But obviously, those are worst case scenario. But those are the things that needs to be covered on the PPA. And the issue of land scarcity, that's another issue on the metropolitan areas. And then I've indicated the triple P method also works for waste to energy projects. The second option that I've indicated is also CO on build. That currently
Hendrik, sorry to interrupt. Could you wrap up in the next few minutes?
All right, I'll do so. We currently have around all municipal buildings, especially most customer care buildings. We introduce or we install solar rooftops. So you can see some of the pictures there. And then we currently have a 1 megawatt methane gas generator in one of the landfill sites. So we want to expand this program by installing additional one, obviously from the IPPs. And then these are wheeling and export tariff that we have introduced to Ekurhuleni. We have developed the wheeling framework to integrate these IPP plants. Currently, we are sitting around 270 megawatts from applications that we have that we still need waiting on NERSA, because at the moment, NERSA did not approve any wheeling or feeding tariffs, which is making a bit of a challenge for us. But as the city, we have developed the wheeling tariffs. We have developed even the integration or feeding tariffs. We have done that as well. So due to time, I think I'm going to end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hendrik. You guys are really charging ahead, and it's really good for you to share your experience with us. And good luck with all of these very impressive ventures.